This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Your brackets. Go Loyola Ramblers. Time for Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research with Mike King in Las Vegas. And maybe, if there are still telephones in the Boston area, Charles Moskowitz in Boston. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, there are phones.
We have hand-cranked phones in Texas.
And you, I mean, any that haven't blown up recently?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you people in Texas? Good grief.
Hey, it's not all of us. There are a few.
Holy smokes.
I shouldn't laugh. I mean, it's a scary thing. I've got family in Austin, Texas, friends in Austin, Texas, and it has really created a lot of fear. And it's just, there are wacky people out there in the world, just like there are in these shootings and other things. And
it's scary.
Got a lot of horsepower on it. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is scary.
It is so
scary. And it started
scary.
last week during South by Southwest.
Yeah, in fact, that's how we found out about it. Was one of my friends was at South by Southwest. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like if this world couldn't get any crazier. It's funny. I was watching, flipping through while I was, on the couch, and watching a little bit of Fox, and they were talking about if Trump would just stop tweeting. I mean, some of his ideas are pretty good. I mean, he's just proving to be an absolute jerk in the White House. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's amazing.
He's like a teenage boy.
Yeah. No,
he has no self-control. Doesn't know when to shut up.
Yeah.
No filters.
Right.
No
exactly.
filters at all.
No filters. That's the word. No filters.
He's a cross between Howard Stern and a teenage boy.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing, guys. That lady that you saw at the end of the Loyola bench, the sister, 98-year-old sister.
Yep.
She was there when our Loyola Lions of Los Angeles played Loyola of Chicago in 1964. She was a chaplain back then. I mean, it's like, oh my God. Yeah. What an amazing lady she is. 98 years old. That's something else. But anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, it
well,
really is.
I'm gonna beat my drum a little bit. If you guys remember 2 or 3 weeks ago, I told you the Saudi IPO was in trouble because of their fear of liability on the New York Stock Exchange. Yo Baby came out last night. They're going to list on the Saudi exchange. Boy, that'll have the respect of the world.
Oh, really?
Hey, Charles, you think there'll be a box on that trade?
Yeah, no joke.
Okay.
The ask will be very narrow, of course.
Okay, guys, explain this. Why is that? Because they couldn't get any support here?
No, they don't want the liability.
Oh,
if they are trading on the New York, exactly. They're open to all of those judgments and lawsuits that were successfully pursued after 9/11 against the Saudis.
Oh,
and they were afraid that people would attempt to attach assets related to the public company. And after he met with Trump yesterday, it came out. They said they could not. And I told you that. There's no way Trump was going to be able to insulate them from that, asking for legislation. Bad chance. So they aren't going to list here, and they're going to start with the Tarawul. Is that the proper pronunciation, Charles?
Not a clue.
I've never even seen it before my newsletters last night and this morning. So but by the way, the market cap of that entire stock exchange is less than $500 billion, and they want $2 trillion on the Saudi IPO.
Hey, there you go. Yes, it may be the Saudi version of Facebook.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, but more news to come, I'm sure.
So how come my gas prices are going up?
Because this time of the year they add blends designed to reduce the emissions in many of the states throughout the United States, including Texas, California being the most predominant. And those blends cost more money. And it just gets added to the price of gasoline. It's not just demand, it's the blends that have to be added to it to reduce those emissions.
Yeah, but I ask again, we have sea breezes here. Who cares about that?
I understand. You also have politicians and irrational people passing laws.
No, irrational people are politicians. Yes.
It's a pretty high correlation there.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Who knows? All right, what's everybody's take on the market yesterday? Is this nervousness more about our friend Donald Trump and tariffs and all this? Because I know I'm getting really nervous.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I think that most of it has to do with the dreaded R word being regulation. You have to remember that most of the things that Trump did initially can all be reversed. Just like he reversed a bunch of Obama's stuff. When they lose Congress in October, November, whenever it is, then they will have the power to rescind bunches of stuff. Now, on top of that, the group that it looks like could be fairly well in the sights of regulators became the social media companies, which basically have had no regulation at all. You know, under the guise of technology moves faster than the laws. And so you have this Facebook issue, and we've already had a Facebook issue and a social media in general issue in the EU. So, you know, whether it gets, you know, whether they lose the Congress, which I can't imagine they won't, you know, there'll be all sorts of issues about regulation. And I think that was one of the biggest pushes that hurt the market yesterday, as well as just the social media stocks, which have done so dramatically well, casts kind of a little bit of a doubt about it. Now, just so that you know, I will get on my soapbox for a second, and I will tell you that I see anecdotal evidence in Facebook that I have seen for a year or two. That being, I signed up for Facebook, and then about 6 months later, I thought I was changing my email address on my Facebook account, and I ended up with multiple Facebook accounts. When your company talks about the number of users that they have, the problem of multiple accounts is certainly there.
Ooh.
On top of that, the company has already come out a couple of months ago, if you recall, and said, you know, we lied. We didn't lie exactly, but we didn't have the real numbers for advertising click-throughs.
Just
Remember
a
that?
slight exaggeration.
Not very long ago.
This is the social media equivalent of spoofing.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
they talk about the other metric that they talk about are daily users. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
every day when I get up, I come downstairs and I look at the computer, and I have emails from Facebook. Things you might have missed since you last signed on. You have 9 notifications, even though I have already gone in, looked at those notifications, and marked them all read. R-E-A-D, not R-E-D. And so I actually don't have anything new, and I don't have to go to Facebook and sign on. And so, I have 2 accounts. I have 2 or 3 emails every single day. I can understand if I'm in a group that has something that's of interest to me, and that I'm in that group and I get those notifications based on that group. That's one thing. But when I see 2 accounts 3 or 4 times a day, it says to me, what are these guys kidding? And by the way, I don't know how representative I am, but the fact of the matter is I never watch the advertising, and I have never purchased anything through Facebook.
Yep.
And so, it really annoys me and makes me kind of scared about the company. When I see that they're counting me 8 times a day, 2 different accounts, 4 sets of notifications and information coming to me after I've already seen it once. That's, I'm going to say that at some point in time that's going to be a problem. I don't hear anybody else talking about multiple accounts, and I don't hear anybody else talking about the fact that they are directed to Facebook a couple of times a day.
Yeah, but
I'm telling you,
love.
I'm telling you here and now, that happens to me every day, and I'm not that unusual.
They love Charles Moskowitz in Moscow. Charles is a big hit over there.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, I wanted to bring up something for you on the Congressional Review Act, which, of course, is the method by which the regulations were rescinded. They have to invoke the CRA within 60 legislative days of it being implemented. So while the Dems, if they take over control, it is definitely something that can be done with majority vote. They can only undo things that were done within 60 legislative days prior to their takeover. So they can't undo all the stuff he did this year, just the last actual 60 days worth before the election. So I would imagine that they are going to be doing as much as they possibly can prior to that 60-day deadline, which is sooner rather than you think.
Right. And 60 days, does that count all of the holidays, vacations, and other times that
No, that's the problem. That's exactly it.
Right.
It's only the days our esteemed legislators actually work.
Oh, so 60 days right now.
Summer.
So 60 days right now in the middle of March goes back to like
10 years.
No, but it would certainly go back to November. Yes, it'd be interesting to do an actual measurement of it. But yeah, all the holidays don't count. It's only legislative days. It's like the equivalent of business days for us, except for Congress, which is certainly not 5 days a week.
Yeah, but do you guys remember the 60-minute piece on the Congress where they have to, all congressmen, I guess, have to go to either the RNC or the DNC and raise money? So in reality, they're only working 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time they're raising money. Can you believe that? I mean, that's...
And not only that, but they're not allowed to do it from
in their
office. So that
means
they're not in their office. They're away.
That's correct. They're at the RNC or DNC. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, oh, what a scam. What a scam.
Well, it shows you why. It shows you why we have the kind of legislators that we have. You look at their focus. Their focus is on getting elected, and getting reelected and getting reelected again. I mean, this so dramatically calls out for term limits. I mean, obviously
God.
there is no one single answer, but this is certainly one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, the Facebook is down another 5.5 or another 3.1% this morning. I mean, it'll bounce and everything, but that's a function of there being more people being short, and then having the stock start up. I mean, yesterday we were down 5. We were actually only down a couple on the weekend news, and then as things continued to come out yesterday, they just kept on pounding it relentlessly.
Now, CNBC was saying that the market was freaking because of the interest rate hikes today.
Yeah.
But everybody knows they're coming.
I was
You'd
gonna
have to be
say,
a moron to not know
Right.
there's a 25 basis point rise coming.
Yeah.
Good Lord. That's fully baked in. I think the unknown is how quickly they unwind the portfolio. That's where the real damage can get done.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, the trillions in
and
that
let's
portfolio.
remember, let's remember, Tim makes a great point that we already know about it. Markets that act like yesterday's market did aren't doing it because it's something they know. It's doing it because there's something they don't know. These collapses happen not where you're looking for them. They happen when you're not looking for them. That whole black swan scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yep. And that is exactly, we were on the phone with our pension fund managers yesterday chewing their butts for buying stocks into this market after I told them not to. And these guys are going, oh, you can't time the market. And I said, no, but you can't sit on your hands and wait for a decent entry point. And I just froze our whole, that we're getting ready to fire them. Stupidest thing I've ever seen.
And the other side of that is that, they don't, or they could, I guess, dollar cost average, but you don't need to be paying someone a fee to dollar average. You can do that yourself.
Yep. And when we hired them, they were going to minimize ETFs because, as we all believe in individual analysis and buying specific equities. And then the first 2 weeks they had our money, they bought 6 ETFs. Now, you got their management fee, you got the ETF management fee, and really we haven't tested a downturn with the pressure that will happen on ETFs. If there's a major black swan, as you referred to, Charles, we've never had ETFs tested on that. Man, you talk about algorithmic trading. That's there.
Yep. It absolutely is.
So I'm literally looking at, I found brokers that have 1-year CDs at $250,000 limits at 3% right now. I'm putting a bunch of our money into those and sitting on my hands. If I can be guaranteed 3% for the next year until we see, does Donald Trump implode and or implode the economy and or Congress, those are 3 pretty significant risks that none of us can control. None of us. There is no control in that.
No, there isn't. It feeds on itself, especially in the ones like the S&P and the commodity ones like GLD. GLD is a problem because GLD holds gold, whether it's gold stocks, actual gold in warehouses with warehouse receipts. As people go into those as a seller and they shrink the amount of money there, the only way to deal with that is to be a seller of what's backing it. So let's get back to oil. I've been writing now for 2 months that the range for oil is 60 to 64. And every time it gets down to 60 and a low fraction, like it did yesterday and the day before and a week ago and 3 weeks ago, we get a pop to the upside. The problem is that we really can't get it through 63.5, 64, and so, it comes back down. Now, I'm still trading the SCO. The SCO is the oil double inverse. And on days like today, where oil is up 1.5%, these are down 3%, but still in the same area that we bought them. And so, basically, this morning we're getting to the top of the range again, not very far away. Where's the oil now, Tim? Like 63 and a half.
63.29.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we're in an area where if it can't get through 64, it'll be back at 62. It'll be back at 60 and a half. But I think that the issue of the lack of volatility in it says a lot about this market. I mean, this market is clearly comfortable with the amount of stability that has been built in over the last couple of months.
And at this point, everybody makes money at $60.
Right.
So
exactly.
if it can stay at 60, this is a really great condition for the industry. Servicing guys get more work because they produce a lot of volume. I just read one of my newsletters this morning, record amounts of LNG and oil being sold offshore and going to continue to be. This is a good condition for the industry, stability. It really is stable. Yep. I'm thrilled it doesn't break 64.
Yeah, absolutely. Because nobody really starts to bitch and moan about it up there.
Okay, so
exactly.
What about all of Trump's tariffs? What does that do to oil?
Somebody said something about Trump's negotiating tactics, and what they said was every negotiation starts with a punch in the face. And basically, that's kind of the way a bully does things. And clearly, he is an immature bully.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, he makes these grand comments and these grand threats, which, when you come down to it, don't mean anything because he can't do what he, claims to want to do. And, all of a sudden, NAFTA was terrible, and, we're going to have tariffs. And then all of a sudden somebody pointed out the fact that, our best trading partners are NAFTA countries. And all of a sudden there's, a softening of those tariffs as it relates to our strategic trading and our strategic security partners.
Yeah, what is it?
He can talk an awful lot, but it doesn't come down to being able to do, what he demands.
Yeah, what is it? It's Canada, Great Britain, and Mexico that are going to be exempt now.
Yeah, right.
It's okay.
Well, and the latest thing, it just came in one of my newsletters, is there's a resolution being introduced in Congress for an exemption on existing major projects. Because the big problem is the pipeline companies. We do not produce enough of the pipe needed for pipelines in the United States, period, the end. Yeah. And so hopefully that can get squeezed through while there is still a majority.
Okay, Tim, why is that?
Because we have had over the years so much of our production capacity has been reduced, and pipeline fabrication is really not a particularly profitable line of business for fabrication plants.
Okay.
My two biggest clients today are fabricators, and the pipelines, because they're such big customers, they force the margins down. Whereas, for instance, they're building LNG facilities for GE and Shell right now. I walked in and gave them 12 more trains last week, and they're achieving a 35% margin. You never get a 35% margin for the pipeline companies. The guidance on those is about 14%. Well, I mean, with the free market being what it is, people are going to work for the better margins, and they're not going to produce the pipe for the pipelines if they're only getting a 14% margin. And so that's why so much of it comes from offshore instead of domestically.
Wow. Interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what is also interesting is the fact that I saw on, one of the news shows, it might have been a 60 Minutes or something, the fact that here in the U.S., because of the issues around what we actually produce, you have some of these manufacturing or steel mills, let's say, that we used to operate with 1,200 people that is now operating with 120 people, and mostly they're overseeing the robots and doing quality control. And
yeah,
so,
there's a lot of truth to that.
retooling, a steel mill is pretty dramatic. And so, we've got them doing what they can profitably do to remain solvent with less employees, to throw a wrench into the works, now to try and get them to retool to something, is just not happening.
Well, and you remember 60 Minutes a few months ago had that story on that town in West Virginia where the coal miners were now being educated to operate computers. And at the
Oh,
moment,
yeah, and write code.
Yes, yes.
I love it.
I think that's
You know,
magnificent.
and yesterday there was a big article on FedEx and their robotics automation. They're not eliminating jobs. They are actually creating new jobs, and they said, net, we expect to see more jobs from automation, but we're going to be able to do more. It was a very interesting article yesterday.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Tim, and let's welcome Andy Fieldfund.
Okay,
Good morning,
I'm going to
everyone.
let you guys go with your next guest, and I'm dropping off, guys.
Okay.
Have a great week.
Thank you, Tim.
Hey, one day, Timmy, we'll get you for the whole hour because this is just absolutely amazing.
Like Larry King used to say, and we'll have so-and-so for the whole hour.
That's right. That's right. For the whole hour.
Hey, what am I, chopped liver, guys? Come on.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the oil business, Andy. Oh. Oh, man.
I use it every day in my house. to
Yeah.
make my heat.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, that's all right. Just another nor'easter coming your way.
Yeah, we're having another nor'easter,
Another.
but it's only going to be 12 to 18 inches, so this one shouldn't be.
Jeez.
What am I saying? It's spring.
You love the first
Well,
day of
take it.
spring, huh?
Yeah, well, in 2 hours it'll be spring.
Yeah, that's right, Charles. Well, Charles,
And-
did you or Andy, either one of you guys lose power in the last mess?
I did not lose power. What I did lose was the cable, and only for a little while. And, of course, the cable becomes an issue because it also includes your phone and your internet.
Oh, you've got VoIP.
Or at least it does
Oh.
from Comcast.
Yep.
And so, it's almost as bad to lose Comcast as it is to lose power. Well, but not exactly, considering that, we're also an electric heat,
Ooh.
here, so.
Yeah. Wow. Andy, what about you?
No, we were fine. It was very windy. We got almost 30 inches of snow where I live,
Oh, jeez.
so that was a mess.
Yeah, we got a solid 15 or 16 inches here, too.
And you're on the shore.
So
It's so hard to imagine. I mean, it's like you guys basically had hurricanes up there.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And thunder snow.
Yeah. It's God. Yeah, absolutely
now,
amazing.
since you gentlemen are not spring chickens, if you think back when you were young, do you ever recall hearing thunder snow when you were children? Did that ever occur to you?
Honestly, I don't
Or is that
know.
something? I mean, you would remember if it was snowing and thundering at the same time.
Absolutely.
This is due to global climate change, and it's a very clear example for me of the changing climate because the conditions that would create thunder snow were extremely rare in the old days, just like all these blocks and everything. these omega blocks and frontal blocks, and where it's rains for days and it's dry for months and all of that stuff. That's all climate change. So, and anybody says it doesn't exist, proof positive. Something's going on.
Well, I think I was 22 when I saw my first snow. That's when we did a football game in New England. That was the first time I'd ever seen snow before. Not much snow in Los Angeles, guys.
Yeah.
Although it's been weird, I still have a couple of the San Diego TV stations, hooked up, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there watching one of them, and just a few miles from where we used to live, Rancho Bernardo got snow. I'm sitting there going, "You have got to be kidding!" Yeah, it was the snow mountains just to the east of it had some snow, and it's like, my goodness. Yeah, it's dipping down pretty low in San Diego, that's for sure. Yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy.
I actually saw a sign to Chester, New York, over the weekend on Sunday when I was coming back from Long Island, because there evidently was some huge amount of traffic, and Waze or Google Maps sent me up 287, Andy.
Wow.
In order to get across to, like the road through Danbury and Newtown and
Wow.
Hartford to come home. Yeah, I was on Long Island, and I had the driving instructions all plugged in. And when I went across the Throgs Neck Bridge, and they said, take 95 south towards George Washington Bridge, I said to myself, okay, are they just screwing with me or what? Because, how many people think you go southwest in order to go northeast? But, that's where they took me, and I kept on seeing signs for Middletown and Chester, and
Wow.
right up until the time that I went back across, through...
So what's happening with Repromed?
Oh,
What's happening with RMS?
We're going to talk
Yeah.
about
Is that my
RMS
cue?
now. Oh.
Yes.
Well, welcome to the show,
Well-
Andy. Oh. Yeah, you got to take your weatherman hat off now, and and put your RMS hat on.
Well, let me tell you, we got some really fun news last week. One of our major drug partners has the immunoglobulin that they manufacture now approved for neurology, and that is a really big deal for us. What this means is that the treatment that we've been providing is now being expanded into an entirely new market. The initial market is for something called chronic demyelinating disease, which is a disease that makes it hard to move and walk, affects the neuron sheath in your body. And our treatment with the system that we have, the Freedom infusion system, is ideal for this group of patients. But just neurology in general is a much larger market than the primary immune deficient patients. So this is the beginning of something new. These patients will use a lot more drug volume. They need to have it delivered faster and more frequently. And again, our system, because of its design, we're a constant pressure, constant force system. Everything in the fluid path is important, and we've created a new needle set expressly for this application that is an incredibly tiny needle that has the kind of performance that they will want and need to treat these new neurological patients. So we're really excited for them and excited for us and excited to partnership with them as they expand their indications into these new markets. By the way, there have been some tests in neurology, everything from Alzheimer's disease to other disease states, multimotor neuropathies, and that sort of thing. And it shows promise. So this could be, a big deal. We don't know yet, but it's certainly something very new for us, and we've created a new needle set expressly to address the special needs of the neurological patient. So we're very excited about that. We plan to attend the American Neurological Meeting, which is in L.A. In April. I think it's something like April 19th or so.
No snow. No snow, Andy.
And then we go on to our National Home Infusion Association meeting, which is in Phoenix this year, I believe. And we have these meetings back to back. So we'll be talking up much about these new indications, new markets, new applications, and our new way of addressing these special needs. So we're really excited about this.
Yeah, we'll have to get Mike King just to drop down from Vegas to Phoenix and meet you over there in Phoenix, huh? Yeah, and this, you say demyelating? I've never heard that terminology before. For that drug?
Yeah, what does that mean?
That means becoming unsheathed.
Wow. Okay.
Demyelating polyneuropathy.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That is amazing. So, again, this is something that you really have kind of, fallen into almost in a way, right?
Well, we've been working with them on it for, we've been preparing for it. It's actually been used off-label quite a bit, but this is the first on-label. There are many patients on it. We were working more than 3 years ago with a major hospital in Denmark.
Okay.
It was extremely successful with this treatment and our system. And the reason the Freedom System was important to them is that it provides the patient the freedom to live where they want to live, and as it restores their quality of life, they're able to really capitalize on it. So what they did was in this university hospital, it's called Aarhus University Hospital in Denmark, they provided, it was a breakthrough trial using the Freedom System to deliver subcutaneous immune globulin, and it was off-label then. And the first patient they tried it on was a guy who was basically in a zero-gravity chair. He was completely immobile. He couldn't do anything. And they started him on this treatment with the Freedom Pump, 4 needles. I think they were doing the treatment every 2 days with a lot of drug. And within about 4 months or so, he returned to his job as a fireman at Thule Air Force Base in Greenland. So
wow.
He had dramatic remission of his symptoms on this thing. So this is quite remarkable. And the only reason he could return to work was he had a portable, he had freedom from the Freedom System. He could return to his previous work. Another one of the patients who was basically confined to a wheelchair started treatment, and within a few months, he was hiking along the trails in Spain, and again, carrying the freedom when needed. We've had that before. We've had patients take our freedom on safari and whatnot in Africa. So we do get those kinds of stories, but this one was documented at Aarhus University in Denmark, expressly for neurological diseases. So we know that some people have gotten absolutely fantastic results from this treatment, and the advantage of our system, it's portable, there's no batteries, it delivers very reliably, very safely, it minimizes adverse reactions. It is the only system in the world that adjusts to the patient, which means if it's going too fast for the patient to absorb the drug, to tissues to perfuse, the system immediately and automatically, just by the physics of it, will slow down and adjust to what the patient can absorb. And the advantage of that is especially for neurological patients where the rates are very fast and the volumes are very high. You want to get the drug in with the least side reactions, side effects, adverse reactions, which are inflammation, redness, swelling, pain, and so on. And so we've created an enhancement, the perfect needle, to allow the very difficult large volumes, fast flow rates for these neurological patients to be delivered with the least side effects. So we think that's a big deal, and we're really, happy to be able to help these patients coming on board, who I think will greatly appreciate what we're offering to them.
So, Andy, with that Freedom 60, is that needle in the patients at all time?
That needle is in for the duration of the administration, generally about an hour. For these patients, the amount of drug is pretty large, so it may be a little bit longer than an hour. We're probably we'll be shooting for about an hour 20 time, and during that time, these needles are placed into the body, into the subcutaneous space, either along the abdomen, the thighs, back of the arms, or in the back of the hips. But most of our patients end up using the abdomen for their administration points. And again, the neurological patients needing so much drug, you can only put in so much drug into each needle. So they are likely to get multiple needles. Hence, the importance of building an absolute perfect needle for neurology is so important, because these will be newer patients, what we call naive patients, exposed to this treatment. And the last thing you want to see is a big, ugly needle coming at you. And what's worse than that is 4 or 5 of these big, ugly needles coming at you. You got to put them into your body. And so we have this really incredibly tiny and perceptibly small needle that can do the job of any of the big needles in this respect. And so we think that'll make a huge difference to these patients and enable this treatment to be very, very successful for a group of patients that have never had this treatment before.
I would think that stock-wise, this would do wonders for your company, because it's opening up a whole new avenue, right?
It's a whole new market that is now on label. Like I said, it's not going to start with a huge number of patients, but it's going to start, and it's going to be very important. When you look at how many people have neurological disease today, that number is huge. And so if this turns out to have as good an effect as we've seen in other studies, we think this could be a very sizable market, and we will be major players in this new market.
That's amazing. Wow, that's really amazing. Mike, what does the stock look like?
Well, it's just broken out above $1, levitating at $1.30, looking like it can go to $2 without much problem.
It's consolidating again, just like it did between 80 cents and $1. So it's got a base here, that it could rally off of. And as long as the news keeps on being good, it will.
Charles, I mean, when you look at this whole new avenue now for RMS, I mean, realistically, looking at past companies, I mean, this has got to be huge for Andy, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, again, that gets into the realm of the amount of leverage that the company has. A small company getting, $1 million or a $2 million or a $10 million contract is a lot different than a $100 million company. So the company is leveraged well from the standpoint of what any of these new products or new deals for distribution actually mean to the company.
Boy, I think that's absolutely amazing. And those stories from Europe are just mind-boggling, Andy. I mean, that's great that, you've got a portfolio now that's starting to build like that. Those are some amazing stories. They really are. Wow. So congrats to you. That's wonderful. So when do you hit Los Angeles?
I'm sorry?
When do you hit L.A. and the convention out there?
Me personally, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make Los Angeles. In the middle of all this madness and all these trade shows, we have 4 trade shows running simultaneously.
Whoa!
There's
Okay.
a pharmacy show in Las Vegas. We'll have somebody at. There's another immunity show in Toronto, and the other 2 shows that I mentioned, NHIA, National Home Infusion Association, and the American Neurological Association meetings. In the middle of all that chaos, someone here has managed to plan our annual meeting in the middle of it.
Good
So
planning.
I am what we call overbooked. And I'm not sure, although I was supposed to be at the LA meeting for the launch of this new indication, I have to send another team there, and I will barely make the one in Phoenix. And I will be doing the Phoenix move and the jump over to Toronto to CIS, the neurological immunity show in Canada, in Toronto. And I think, and then from the Toronto show, we have the Las Vegas show, which is a pharmacy show in Las Vegas. I'll be in Toronto at that point, so I won't be there personally.
Well, you're almost hitting one of my ESPN records of 4 different cities in one day. Yeah, we did 6 stories in 4 different cities in one day. Yeah, mind-boggling. Yeah, but I think this news is just amazing for you. Now, the infusion convention you've been to before. But the one in
We've never been to the American Neurological Society.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
a new meeting for us. We've never been there. We don't know the doctors there. That will be the official launch of the pharmaceutical company for this new indication. And what we said was we would be there for them when they launched at this show. But in the press, if you look it up, you can see that the press release of the new indication was out last Friday.
That's great. Well, boy, that's absolutely amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well,
So that's what's new.
Whoever scheduled the annual meeting in the middle of all this, you need to have a chat with them, I think. You got to get some rest.
Yeah. Well, we got to do what we got to do.
There you go. Yeah, got to get it while you can. There's no doubt about it. Well, that's something else. Well, Andy, best of luck to you, and obviously safe travels. And if you have a few minutes, give us a buzz if you're there on a Tuesday.
We'll do it.
Sounds good. Well, Michael, Charles, any words here? We got about 5 minutes left. What does the market look like?
It looks pretty firm. It's broken above congestion, which was added for Repromat at $1. As far as the overall market is concerned,
Yeah.
it's in reaction phase. After having made new highs, it's consolidating.
Isn't this so? Turn the clock back to last March. Didn't it do this last year around this time?
Every year.
Every year,
Between
yeah, that's what I
February and
thought.
March, it tends, yes, it does.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, it's a reaction
there are
phase
days.
period.
There are days and weeks where we inhale, and there are days and weeks when we exhale in the market. And last couple of days we've been exhaling. I mean, it's doesn't change the market that dramatically. I mean, earnings are still tending to be very good. I'm not a buyer of it, but I hear a lot of these talking heads being a buyer of Facebook now that it's 16 times earnings, which is actually less than a market multiple. I mean, the market is roughly 17 times earnings, the S&P. So, there are companies that have made meaningful pullbacks, and rightly so. The fact of the matter is, if you read the letter and you see on page 3 where Mike has the market lab with all of the statistical information, you'll see that the AAII numbers, which is American Institute of Investors, comes out every Wednesday night, and there are 3 numbers: bullish, bearish, and neutral. And I've mentioned it in the letter a couple of times in the last couple of months that while the bull and bear numbers have fluctuated fairly widely, the neutral number has constantly been very high, very much higher than its statistical average. What that means to me, and in this market what that means, is there's a ton of money that doesn't know what to do with it. And so, we're getting, in some of these stocks, we're getting down to the buy on weakness area. The problem with that, of course, is that as bad as Facebook looks today, or looked yesterday before being down 5 more today, is scary to buy, even though it probably is an excellent, it's clearly a better buy than it was at, 175 or 180 or 185. It's just, there's so much money sitting along the sidelines looking for the momentum that when the momentum shifts in any of these stocks, this market roars in both directions. We talk about the volatility index. Volatility is really not what I'm talking about, but the velocity of this money coming in and out into some of the momentum stocks, it seems to be more of a preference than just buying good companies as they are declining. That's kind of scary, buying something as it's declining.
Yeah,
but
I would
we look
say
pretty
so.
firm here. We're up we're up 100 and change here. The oil is 63.39, which is up over 2%, 2.14%. So that's pretty dramatic. But you look at Facebook, which was 185, and you see it at 167, and it's probably a buy.
I still don't understand how you make money off likes. Thanks, guys. Mike King in Las Vegas. Charles Moskowitz in Boston. Don't forget that newsletter. Comes out every Sunday. And boy, is it valuable. 19 pages, sometimes 20, 21. It's just amazing information. PrincetonResearch.com. Go get it. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie. Worldwide, WPSL.com.